James Brown was in the middle of his biggest hit when he saw her. A little girl, maybe 8 years old, standing absolutely still in the fourth row, while 15,000 people around her screamed and danced and celebrated. She wasn't moving, wasn't smiling, just standing there with tears running down her face, completely alone in a crowd of thousands. Brown stopped singing mid-verse. The band kept playing for a few seconds before they realized what was happening. The crowd's cheering turned to confused murmuring, and then Brown did something that no one in that arena would ever forget. He walked off the stage, through security into the crowd, straight to that little girl, and asked her a question that would change both their lives. "Where are your parents, baby?" What happened in the next 20 minutes became one of the most powerful moments in music history. A reminder that sometimes the most important thing a performer can do is stop performing. It was August 1973 at Madison Square Garden in New York City. James Brown was at the absolute peak of his powers. The godfather of soul, the hardest working man in show business. He'd sold out the venue, 18,000 seats, every single one filled. The energy in the arena was electric. People had paid good money to see a legend, and Brown was giving them everything they'd come for. He'd been performing for 45 minutes, working through his catalog of hits, and the crowd was in a frenzy. This was what a James Brown concert was supposed to be. Pure energy, pure joy, pure celebration of music and movement and life. But then he saw her. Row 4, Section C. A little black girl with her hair in 2 braids, wearing a yellow dress that looked like it had been carefully chosen for this special occasion. She was standing perfectly still, while everyone around her jumped and danced and screamed. And she was crying. Just quiet tears running down her cheeks while she stared at the stage with an expression Brown couldn't quite read. Something about her stillness in all that chaos caught his attention. Something about the way she seemed completely alone despite being surrounded by thousands of people. Brown stopped singing, just stopped mid-word. The band, which had been locked into a tight groove, kept playing for maybe 5 or 6 seconds before they realized their lead singer had gone silent. One by one, the musicians stopped. The horns first, then the guitar, then the bass, finally the drums. The crowd screaming and cheering gradually died down as people realized something unusual was happening. Confusion rippled through the arena. This wasn't part of the show. This wasn't one of Brown's famous theatrical moments where he pretended to be too exhausted to continue. This was something else. Brown walked to the edge of the stage and pointed directly at the little girl. "You," he said into the microphone, his voice carrying to every corner of Madison Square Garden. The little girl in the yellow dress, "Don't move." 18,000 people turned to look at row 4, Section C. The little girl's eyes went wide with shock and perhaps fear. Brown handed his microphone to his bandleader and did something unprecedented. He walked down the steps at the side of the stage. Security guards moved to stop him, confused about what was happening, but Brown waved them off. He walked straight into the crowd, which parted for him like water, people too stunned to do anything but step aside. He reached the 4th row and knelt down in front of the little girl, completely ignoring the 18,000 people watching him. Up close, he could see that she was younger than he'd thought, maybe 7 years old, and she'd been crying for a while. Her face was streaked with tears, her eyes red and puffy. Brown asked, his voice gentle in a way that people who only knew him from recordings wouldn't have recognized. "Keisha," the girl whispered, so quietly he could barely hear her. "Keisha, that's a beautiful name. Why are you crying, Keisha?" "I can't find my mama." Brown felt his heart constrict. "You're here alone?" "No, I came with Mama, but she left to use the bathroom, and she told me to stay right here and not move, and she'd be right back. But that was, I don't know how long ago, a long time, and she hasn't come back." Brown looked around at the people near Keisha. Does anyone know this child? Is anyone here with her? People shook their heads. A woman in the row behind Keisha spoke up. I noticed her standing there alone about 20 minutes ago. I thought maybe her mother was just in a different seat or something. I didn't realize she was lost. Brown turned back to Keisha. How long has your mama been gone? I don't know. A long time, before you even started singing. And I'm scared, because she said not to move. And I didn't move, but she's not coming back, and I don't know what to do. It's okay, baby. We're going to find your mama. I promise you that. But first, I need you to do something for me. Can you do that? Keisha nodded, her eyes huge. I need you to come with me up on that stage, because from up there, we can help find your mama faster. Is that okay? I'm not supposed to move. Mama said to stay right here. Your mama would want you to come with me so we can find her. Trust me on that. I'm James Brown. You know who I am? You're the man on stage, the one singing. That's right, and I'm going to make sure you find your mama. Okay? Keisha hesitated for another moment, then nodded. Brown picked her up. She was so light, probably hadn't been eating enough, and carried her back through the crowd, up the stairs, onto the stage. The crowd watched in absolute silence. Nobody was quite sure what was happening, but everyone understood it was important. Brown walked to center stage, still carrying Keisha. He picked up his microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Keisha. She's 7 years old, and she's lost her mother. Her mother is somewhere in this building, probably looking for her daughter and scared out of her mind. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to find Keisha's mother, and we're going to do it right now. He turned to Keisha. What does your mama look like? She's tall. She has long hair. She's wearing a blue dress with white flowers on it. Brown spoke into the microphone again. Keisha's mother is wearing a blue dress with white flowers. She's tall with long hair. If that's you, or if you see someone matching that description, I need you to make your way to the stage right now. Security, let her through. Everyone else help us find this mama. The arena erupted into activity. 18,000 people became 18,000 search party members. People stood up, looked around, called out descriptions. Security guards moved through the crowd, looking for a woman in a blue dress with white flowers. Brown sat down on the edge of the stage with Keisha on his lap. Your mama is going to be so happy to see you. Are you mad? Keisha asked. That I interrupted your concert? Mad? Baby, you didn't interrupt anything. You're the most important thing happening in this building right now. All these songs I sing, all these shows I do, they don't matter as much as making sure a little girl finds her mama. But all these people paid money to see you. And they're getting to see something more important than a concert. They're getting to see what it means when people come together to help someone. That's better than any song I could sing. 3 minutes passed, then 5. Brown kept talking to Keisha, asking her about school, about her favorite things, keeping her calm and distracted. The crowd continued searching, calling out, trying to find a woman in a blue dress with white flowers. Then, from near the back of the arena, a scream. Keisha! Keisha, baby, I'm here! A woman was running down the aisle, security guards running with her. She was tall, wearing a blue dress with white flowers, her face a mask of terror and relief. Brown stood up with Keisha. Is that your mama? Mama! Keisha screamed, starting to cry again, but this time from relief. The woman reached the stage, and Brown handed Keisha down to her. They collapsed into each other, both crying, both holding on like they'd never let go. The crowd erupted, 18,000 people cheering, crying, celebrating. It was louder than any applause Brown had received that night for his music. Brown let them have their moment. The crowd quieted down to hear him speak. Keisha's mama, what's your name? Patricia, the woman said, her voice shaking. Patricia Williams. Patricia, can you tell us what happened? I went to use the bathroom, and there was a long line. Then when I got out, I couldn't remember exactly where our seats were. I thought it was section B, but it was section C. and I've been searching for 20 minutes, asking security for help, but nobody could hear me over the music and the crowd, and I thought I'd lost my baby." Her voice broke, and she started crying again, holding Keisha tighter. Brown nodded. "Patricia, I want to ask you something. Did you bring Keisha to this concert by yourself?" "Yes. Her father, he's not in the picture. It's just the two of us, and she loves your music so much. She's been singing your songs for months, begging me to bring her to see you perform. I saved up money from my job at the diner, and last month I finally bought tickets. But they were expensive, so I could only afford one adult ticket and one child ticket. I couldn't bring anyone else to help me watch her. Patricia, I want you and Keisha to know something. You're not alone anymore. Do you understand me? You're not alone." Brown turned to his road manager, who was standing in the wings. "Danny, I want you to take Patricia and Keisha backstage. Get them comfortable. Make sure they have food, drinks, whatever they need. They're my personal guests for the rest of this show and every show I do in New York from now on." He turned back to the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, can we give Patricia and Keisha a hand?" The applause was thunderous again. Patricia was crying so hard she could barely stand. Keisha was smiling through her tears. Brown's road manager came out to escort them backstage. But before they left, Patricia grabbed Brown's hand. "Mr. Brown, I don't know how to thank you. You stopped your whole concert for us." "The concert doesn't matter, Patricia. What matters is that you and Keisha are together. That's all that matters. Now you go backstage and enjoy the rest of the show. And Keisha, you remember this night. Remember that when you needed help, 18,000 people stopped everything to help you. Remember that kindness matters more than music. Remember that people care." Keisha nodded, her eyes shining. After they were escorted backstage, Brown turned to his band. "All right, boys. Let's give these people a show they'll never forget." The band launched into the next song, and Brown performed with an energy and emotion that went beyond anything he'd done earlier that night. Because now he wasn't just performing. He was celebrating. Celebrating a little girl finding her mother. Celebrating 18,000 people coming together for something that mattered. Celebrating the fact that sometimes the most important thing you can do is stop what you're doing and pay attention to what really matters. After the concert, Brown spent 30 minutes with Patricia and Keisha backstage. He learned that Patricia worked double shifts at a diner in Queens to support them. That Keisha was a good student who loved to sing and dance. That they'd been through some hard times, but they were making it work. Before they left, Brown gave them something: lifetime passes to any of his shows, anywhere in the world, and a check for $5,000. "Mr. Brown, I can't accept this," Patricia said, trying to hand the check back. "Yes, you can, and you will. Use it to make your life a little easier. Buy Keisha some new clothes. Take a day off work. Do something nice for yourself. You're working hard and raising a beautiful daughter by yourself. You deserve help." Years later, people would ask James Brown about that night at Madison Square Garden, about why he stopped a sold-out concert for one little girl. "People think performing is the most important thing I do," Brown would say. "But that night, I realized performing is just what I do to get a platform. The platform is what matters. And that night, I used my platform to help a mother and daughter who needed help. That's more important than any song I've ever recorded." Did you ever hear from them again? Every year on the anniversary of that concert, I get a letter from Patricia and Keisha. They're doing well. Keisha's in college now, studying music, wants to be a singer, says that night changed her life because it showed her what music should be used for, bringing people together and helping others. Do you have any regrets about stopping the concert? My only regret is that I didn't notice her sooner, that she stood there alone and scared for as long as she did before I saw her. But I'm grateful I saw her when I did, because that moment taught me something I'd forgotten. That the real power of music isn't in the performance. It's in what the performance allows you to do for others. It's in the platform it gives you to make someone's life better. That little girl reminded me why I started performing in the first place. Not for the applause, or the money, or the fame, but for the connection, for the ability to touch people's lives, and maybe, if I'm lucky, make those lives a little bit better. If this story about stopping everything to help one person in need, about using fame and platform for genuine good, and about how the most important moments are often the ones that aren't planned, moved you, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that individual human beings matter more than any performance or production. Subscribe for more stories about artists who understood that their real job wasn't entertaining people, but serving them. And remember, the most important thing you can do might be stopping what you're doing to pay attention to someone who needs help.